Adrian, last weekend was obviously very good for you with that win. Has there been an uplift this week? A noticeable uplift in the squad?
Yeah, definitely. I think it was well deserved. I think we've been building, and the performance has been better each week as we've gone along, and the inclusion of some players and John Asiata last week certainly got the group motivated, and I thought the rugby was pretty much consistent for the 80 minutes. So there's been a different vibe about the place. We've got to be careful though. I've been around rugby league a long time and know that the minute that you start fall in love with yourself, it turns very quickly against you. So playing against a Cass team that's playing very well at the moment and confidently, and they'll come here with all hope to get the 2 points.
Yeah, and getting the chance to go back to back then for the first time this season as well. I mean, on paper you look at Cass. I know you won't, but you look at Cass and you think it is the perfect chance to make it back to back wins.
Yeah, it's probably more about us than looking at Cass. Because like I said, I've watched them the last couple of weeks, and they're having a go as a group. Whilst they haven't been getting the results the same, they had a good win on the weekend, a big win on the weekend, and defended reasonably well at home there. So, but for me and us, it's just about maintaining our standards and keep developing the areas that we're looking forward to improving in this second quarter of the season. So there's going to be a lot of responsibility on everyone to play a better individual game within the group, and again looking for more improvement.
You mentioned there that, or in a previous answer, that the focus is making sure you don't fall in love with yourselves from the win at the big win over Catalans, and not getting too high over that. How do you do that? Do you just have you not spoke about Catalans almost and just made sure the focus is purely on Cats?
No, we've tried to keep the process very similar, but I also want to promote and show the things that we did really well, because there were some things there that were as good as it gets in any big game during a season. So there are some standards there that we're starting to hit, and when you do that, it improves your chances of winning. So, like I said, Castle come here. They came here at the end of last year too as a confident side, and played really well against us, and it was game on right to the death. So we're expecting the same, but like I said, I want our players to be more about us this week and make sure that we take a step up, keep the attitude up, make sure we pay the respect to Cass that they deserve, and then looking for improvement from individuals.
I mean, something when you look at the table, there's like the top 8 are quite bunched in terms of points, but there's a 6-point gap to you. I know you've got the game in hand. How do you? This is going to sound really stupid because the obvious answer is win games. How do you close that gap?
I think it's not a case of looking up at the moment. It's a case of day to day, to be honest with you. Like, that's the focus and the philosophy behind me and the group at the moment. We've lost that edge from the start of the season, and if you're always looking up, you're always chasing, and it becomes a negative mindset, or a mindset where you're always hoping for a performance to be good, as opposed to let's focus on the now, be present with our performances, with our attitude, with our training, with our standards. And I think if we just make sure we look after it each day at a time, I think that will chip away at it. Then we can look at that at, say, the halfway part of the season. So, we can't get ahead of ourselves. We've got the win last week against the top of the ladder team because of the consistency over the last few weeks. But we haven't had an 80-minute performance until last weekend. So that's now what we're going to try and focus on. So, I'm hoping that we can back that up. I know we will. I think we're in a different place than what we were. A few players added to the squad this week will certainly help.
Yeah, I was just going to ask for a roll call. How are we looking?
Yeah, a couple of nigglies from the game last week, which we'll sort out through to captain's run. But I think we'll add Edwin Apape to the 21 this week. Again, John playing last week. Got a couple of niggly injuries in the short time that he played, but he'll be included in the squad. So the big one is probably Edwin Apape coming into that, and he's looking bigger than he's ever looked, and looks fitter than he's ever been where I've seen him. So hopefully he gets through this week in good shape, and then he can make that 17 on the weekend.
Yeah, I think so. And with John back as well, and the positives that'll do. If you say Edwin's back as well, it's almost watch out, Super League Leah coming. Yeah,
well, again, let's not get too ahead of ourselves, because those players probably need 6 weeks to get their form up as well. But we'll have some sort of headache in regards to the selection room and who misses out. Obviously, Dan Norman failed his HIA last week, so he's I think that was his second or third, so he's going to miss a couple of weeks now, sadly for Dan, but he misses out. But again, 18th and 19th man last week were Brogan and Darnell McIntosh, so those players might come into consideration as well.
Best luck for the weekend, mate. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Hi, Lammy, you right, man?
Yeah, very good.
Just continue on the sort of roll call theme. Is Robbie Mulhern going to be back in contention?
Robbie Mulhern's probably got another week, so he's either Salford or the game after that. I think it's Huddersfield after the Challenge Cup semi-finals. So he'll probably be in the squad next week, and if he gets through okay, he'll come into consideration.
Obviously, we sort of touched on it last week, but just how massive is it to have these players coming back for yourselves? Obviously, it's the key members of your spine.
Yeah, it's massive for our club. We've never had the biggest of squads, but these players as well are players that were playing the best in their positions last year. Some of them, Edwin Apape, Tom Amain, John Asiata, they've all been playing a great deal of time with respect to being in the best team of the competition or the Super League Dream Team. So, Robbie Mulhern played for England at the end of the year and hasn't played much for us this year as well. So we've missed that experience and that just that next level for us. So, but like I said, I haven't dwelled too much on that over the last couple of weeks. I've just been focusing on the players such as the Owen Trouts and the Dan Normans, the Ben McNamara's who have certainly come in and done a decent job.
In terms of those lads that have come in, then what's the sort of thought process with them now that maybe the guys that are going to take the starting spots come back in? Do you look at loan options for them or just reserves or?
Yeah, we've got a few niggly injuries still on some of the fringe players and some of the players that are in the squad. So we've just got to be careful on how we manage this next month of rugby as well. As much as we've enjoyed the players potentially coming back sooner now, I think the danger is giving them too much time too soon. So we've got to find a balance of who starts for us and the time needed per game for those players that are returning. We don't want to overcook them so soon. They need to build that load and that science part of the game. So we've got to make sure that we manage their time right.
And on Castleford then, what have you sort of made of them this year? Obviously down at the bottom as they were last year. What do you sort of compare them to last year?
Yeah, I think there's been a fair bit of turmoil and turnover within their group through this season. I thought they've managed themselves really reasonably well considering the amount of players that have been in and out. So and changed around. They've picked up Tex Hoy from Hull that probably was the player of the match for them last week. So he's brought them an injection of some X factor to them. They've got a lot of young faces in there that are certainly playing to cement a spot in their group. And like I said, they played Wigan a couple of weeks ago and played reasonably well at Wigan. So they're going to be a team that have got nothing to lose really. But coming here, they're going to have their hopes high. But we'll have a different opinion on that for ourselves. We've been working really hard to get that 2 points, and we certainly don't want to take a backward step with our performance this week from what we saw last week. And I know in my heart that we're in a different place than what we were a month ago. So I'm looking for an improvement.
Obviously, May the 1st has come around very quickly. You've got a high percentage of the squad that are off contract this year. Is there any sort of movement on when we might see some new deals announced for those lads? Or
yeah, I think there's a lot going on in the background here, on top of the injuries and everything else that's been happening. So it's been really busy with the admin and everything else, and Chris Chester and everyone involved with the rugby side. Retention and recruitment is a massive part of our club. We've got that 5-year plan moving forward with who we want to be, and things are turning around. There's a lot that have agreed in the background, but we'll discuss that in the near future.
Just on Darnell McIntosh, obviously, I know you mentioned we might see him in the squad this week.
Mm-hmm.
Any more thoughts on where he might fit in, or are you going to tell me to wait and see?
No, I think obviously he's an outside back, centre winger or fullback, and I think if he gets in the 17 this week, he'll probably come off the bench and get one of those positions, an opportunity in one of those positions. So, he's fitted in reasonably well with the group. He's starting to understand some of our language that we have in attack and defence, and that's what the priority has been. Let's just get him here. Let's have a look at him. Let's get him to fit into into our system and get the repetitions, and then give them an opportunity. So there is some pressure on the outside backs there, but it's exactly what we need to have at this part of the season, especially when we've got some players coming back from injury as well. I'm looking forward to watching him play, to be honest with you. He looks like he's got some speed about him, which is probably what we need most at the club here at the moment. So, excited to see when he does get that opportunity.
And I've got to ask you, obviously I'm sure you've seen the sort of speculation, rumour mill around yourself this week with the South's job down under. Is there any sort of, what's your stance on that?
Well, I've not had a phone call with him at all. And what I do know is that I love this club here at the moment. It's been where we've taken it to over the last 2.5 years has been incredible, and I've enjoyed every moment of it. And like I've just mentioned as well, there is a 5-year plan here that we have at the club, and it's on track on where it needs to be. So my focus is solely here. If something comes up from that way, as any normal person would do as a business, you look at what the opportunity is and then make decisions moving forward from there. But I know that my heart is here at the moment. It's been an amazing journey so far, and may long shall it continue.
Obviously, we mentioned the sort of players being off contract. You're out of contract yourself this year. Are discussions ongoing with that? Yeah,
that's ongoing too. There's a lot of people. There have been a lot of people in the last couple of weeks that are off contract, including myself. So it was a priority for me to make sure that we get the people that we want kept here, and I think we're on track with that. So that's a handy thing. And like I said, for me, I'm sure things will happen and finalise itself over the next couple of weeks.
Being linked to sort of a job like that down under in the NRL, is that testament to what you've managed to achieve so far at Leeds?
I think it's nice to be thought about there with all the hard work that we've done here. I think it's good to be acknowledged. I think I've done my apprenticeship, so to speak, and still being involved with the Kangaroos. I think my name's going to come up in those situations. But obviously, winning the Challenge Cup here last year was a massive achievement for a club and our fans and me as personally as coach. So, it's nice to be thought about in that regard.
Cheers, Lammy. Thank you. Good luck this weekend.
Ben. Thank you.
Hi, Adrian.
Hey, mate.
Good to see you, mate. And if I can just add to that last point that you were questioned about South Sydney, as an outside observer, to me it looks as though Leeds Leopards are a much happier club at the moment than South Sydney are. So, I'm not sure it'd be a great move for you, even if they offered you, a fortune to go there. But so long may you continue at Leeds, mate.
I think the link also may be put together because of, we struggling here too when I first got the appointment here. Not in a bad way or a financial or a business way, but a turnover of players and being relegated to championship certainly was a testing time. But we got through all of that, and I think that's what the Rabbitohs are probably going through at the moment. Things aren't going their way, so maybe they're looking at some sort of, alignment with that.
Yeah, I mean, one day you will go back there, won't you, to Australia? But your whole body language looks very positive at the moment at Lee. You don't look like a guy who wants to head back to Australia.
Well, as I sit here, the sun's just come out. I've got my t-shirt on, and it'll probably only be out for about.
Out in Yorkshire.
It'll be out for about 15 minutes. So, at least the sun's out, and it's 1st of May. So, let's look forward to what's next for us, which is a home game this week.
Can I just ask you about 3 players in your squad who've caught my eye? Obviously, the first one obviously is Matt Moylan, who I think at the moment is playing so well and looks so calm on the field. He seems to have an aura of not panicking. Just he's got that persona that looks as though he belongs on the field. And are you going to keep playing him at full back? Because I mean, I personally think he looks better in that position, but you may or may not agree.
Yeah, he's probably too calm at times, but I think a lot of fans would probably agree with you that he's doing a really good job there at fullback at the moment, and I agree as well. Matty has got that experience where he's learned to have that composure through big moments in games, and his performance on the weekend was outstanding, and he's been pretty good on most games, but again, like every player that comes over from the NRL, it takes them up to 10 games to find their feet here and understand how it works and find form through that period of time, which I think he's bang on where he needs to be now. So, I think, again, that the difficult part for us is let's just take it a day at a time, a week at a time, and then build the squad from what we have. Gaz O'Brien, our normal fullback, is probably back in 2 or 3 weeks. Then we've got some tough decisions to make there. But Matty's done an amazing job there. Like I said, he's played for Australia in that position before. He's come through all of his juniors there. So it's certainly a position he feels at home with. And then, we'll make some tough decisions moving forward in a couple of weeks.
And can I just ask you about Amila Hanley? Because, he obviously didn't get many breaks, last year, because obviously you've got Briscoe and Charnley, who were both playing well and not being injured and so on. But since he's come in, again, he's impressed me a lot, and he looks a natural to me. And I just wonder what obviously he's got quite good genes, hasn't he? Let's face it.
He has.
Parentage. I just wonder what you think, what you make of him.
Yeah, I've watched Yamila since he was 15, since I had him at Wigan there, and I gave him his debut for Wigan. And every game that he played there, he got better, which is a good sign for me. And obviously, when Wigan released him to Newcastle, we were quick to jump on him and get him signed here because there was that potential that was there. And I think when he got here, he had a slow start, and we've had a couple of private conversations about what he needs to do to develop. And it's when he got that injury last year and towards the end of the season and had an operation on his shoulder that he had a lot of downtime and really worked hard in the gym and got that extra bit of strength and power. And I think I saw a different athlete through our pre-season. And I think sometimes, when the players put their best foot forward through a pre-season and get through that and shine, like I had some of the senior players saying to us at different times, he's a really difficult player to tackle and defend against at training. That gives you some signs that he's certainly on his way. And then it was about, when you get the opportunity, we'll give you an opportunity, but you've got to take it with open hands. And when Briscoe got injured, he was the first player. I got offered wingers from other clubs that were playing Super League, and we made a conscious decision to give him that first opportunity instead of going outside of the group. And I'm grateful we've done that because he's certainly stepped up, and I think he's only going to get better over the next 12, 24 months. And, he's one player that we're keeping long term, and again, great youth there, great speed, and a good kid.
And finally, the third player is Ben McNamara, who obviously you signed from Hull this year, playing alongside your son Lucky at halfback. And I don't know what you think, but that looks a good halfback combination to me. And I almost thought that when Matt was playing alongside Lucky, there were almost two commanders, at halfback. Whereas I think, to me, and tell me if I'm wrong, but Ben and Lucky together look like probably a better combination, with Lucky taking charge of what happens at halfback.
Yeah, it's a difficult one because, again, the first 5 games that we saw with Matt Moylan and Lockie, it takes time to play together. It takes repetitions together. And I think that will form, if Matt ends up going to half, I think that will form anyway. It just takes time. But on Ben McNamara, I coached Ben McNamara with my youngest son over at Cleverley Crocs in the eastern suburbs of Sydney. So I had Ben for 3 years when he was, I think, 10, 11, 12. So I know what Ben's capable of, and he's a tough kid, and he's also a smart player. He's got a lot to learn, and he's only very, very raw at the moment, and the improvement we're going to see in him over the next 3 years, hopefully, is going to go through the roof. So I know he's made a few bad decisions in some games, but, as a coach, I'm here to support the players that when they're going through those moments because, like I said, they're probably playing ahead of their time where they should be. So I've got to be understanding in those moments. But Ben's done so much more good things than the bad things, and the communication that he's had with Lockie and John Asiata are certainly developing him and giving that experience that he needs. So I've got to be patient with Ben. That's going to prosper at some point, and I look forward to that happening. But he's doing a great job for us at the moment.
And he's another kid with good genes, isn't he? With his dad, of course. But were you surprised when Hull let him go? Because it surprised me a bit, really.
I tried to get him to Wigan actually when I first went to Wigan. I think he was only 17. So I've followed his progress, and he can also play. I think he's a bit of a 9 as well. So I think he'd be able to do a job there at some point in the near future. Like I said, I think he's one of the smartest players I know, and if he can keep developing the way that he is and get into that 9 spot and really manage games through that part of the field for us, I think he could potentially take us to another level. But happy with what he's doing for us at the moment. He's getting better every week, and I'm grateful that he's learning along the way.
But just looking at this game on Saturday, it's a potential banana skin, isn't it? Because I think Castleford have made some really good signings in the last 2 or 3 weeks, to be perfectly honest. And these 2 senior guys on the wing, they've got a very big back line. You'd imagine that a good kicking game, towards your try line. They've got some big guys who can get those balls. They don't look. 4 weeks ago you'd have said this was an easy fixture, but I don't think you can say that now. And you're going to have to concentrate throughout the 80 minutes to make sure that you do get the win this Saturday.
Yeah, they've got some class players there, Martin. They're captain at 9. They've got Westerman, who's like their John Asiata role from. They've got Miller, who's been around Super League for a long time. They've got Hoy that's brought on some X factor now. They've got the 2 wingers that have got height and speed in them, and then there's just a bunch of other boys there that are having a go for them. So, they are going to be a difficult team to play against. But as I mentioned earlier, this week's about us and how we can move forward from where we've been. And I'm looking forward to that challenging the boys with that. I think we need to step up here for an 80-minute and back up what we've just done. It's easy to think you're going okay now when the minute you do that you get hurt. So we understand the situation we're in, and we've got to win. That's as simple as that. We're in a win mentality now, and we're looking forward to the game.
I mean, nobody expected you to win so easily against the Catalans. I mean, I actually tipped you to win, but not by that many.
Yeah, it wasn't easy. I know. I think I made a comment after the game that it was probably the most physical game that we've been involved with this year, which makes it all the better for us. I think it went 13 minutes non-stop without a stoppage in play, which is a grand final or a big game mentality. And we won that by Farge making a mistake in around the 13-minute mark. So really proud of the team for that. But it's who we want to be and our identity of a club on what we want to be, who we want to be. So I saw some really positive signs, but we certainly ground our way into that game. And then when we got control of it, we certainly had that strangle part about us. So really good victory in the sense of the process on who we're about as a team. And, we just need to...
It couldn't have come at a better time, could it? Let's face it.
Yeah, but look, we were close the week before against Warrington. I felt that we should have won against Warrington. We did everything right to get ourselves in a position to win that game. So when you look at that, you look at Hull KR the week before when we should have won that. And in the Challenge Cup, I thought that was one that got away from us. So we've been close, but just lacked that polish and that smarts and game management with our key players. And I thought we got that last week.